Hey, good morning, everybody. Orlando Sanchez here on our weekly Facebook Live on Texas Latino Conservatives. And of course, I'm joined by the lovely and ever vivacious. I know I'm in a good
Oh
mood this
my
morning.
God, welcome back to Houston.
Andrea
I'm going to
Gomez.
send you more often to Montana. That way you come lovely, not grumpy. That's amazing.
I came back lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you. So this is our weekly Facebook Live. We try to have a little fun here, but we try to deliver some pertinent information about what's been going on in the state of Texas, in the Latino community, and more importantly, in the conservative community, which we know that 85% of our Latino population in the state of Texas is conservative. Remember, we have a difference between Republican and conservative, right? So we're conservative, and we basically let you make up your mind how you want to vote. But we know, and we talk about our values, what our values are. So having said that, we're also an organization that likes to collaborate with other organizations that believe in what we believe, and that is our country, our constitution, our capitalist system of economics, our families, our values. We also believe in a strong military, as is evidenced by the fact that many, many, many Latinos are in the United States Armed Forces. I think that the Hispanic community, at least in Texas, has the highest number of congressional medal recipients and honor medals from the U.S. Armed Forces. So that's what we believe in. And so today we're collaborating with an organization that's been around for quite a while. It's called LIBRE. And we are delighted to have I guess a former California resident who saw the light, moved to Texas, George Martinez with us. But before we introduce George from the LIBRE organization, we want to allow Andrea to say a few words in español.
Ay, qué lindo, gracias. Mira, me encanta cuando vas a Montana porque además de que llegaste feliz, de que llegaste con una buena vibra, entonces además me estás dejando hablar. Qué bueno, Orlando. Bueno, bienvenidos a todos a nuestro TLC Live, como todos los miércoles a las 11 de la mañana más o menos, pero definitivamente, bueno, vamos a entrar en materia y vamos a darle la bienvenida a nuestro invitado Jorge Martínez. Jorge, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias a Dios y gracias por tenerme.
Bueno, Jorge, well, now we're going to switch to English, and in English is George.
It's George, not Jorge.
No, Jorge. Yeah. But that's what I say, Jorge Martinez, because we know you are bilingual. So tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about the organization that you represent.
Well, as Orlando said, I grew up in California in the Central Valley. I'm a child of immigrant farm workers, and I made my way out to Texas. I have family out here. We came here 6 years ago, and we're not looking back. We love Texas. We're happy to be here. And I actually came out here working with the LIBRE Initiative. The organization started in 2011 by our president, Daniel Garza, and he lives here in Mission, and we saw an opportunity to come on out here 6 years ago, and I've been with the organization since 2012. And our overall mission is to empower Hispanics so that they can thrive and achieve their American dream. And the way to do that is to break down barriers that are in the way. So we're going to educate on policy, and we're also going to do the grassroots work. So you're going to see us doing phone banking, canvassing, going door to door with all our activists and volunteers across the state and country. So that's just a little bit about what the LIBRE Initiative does.
So we're happy that you guys are in Texas, and we are certainly very proud of what you guys have accomplished so far. We certainly want to wish you the very best and great success. One of the problems that I've seen historically, George, and maybe you can comment on this, is that you know, the Hispanic organizations generally don't work collaboratively, and that's one of the missions of the PAC, is to work with every organization in the state of Texas that is trying to bring the Latino community back to their home, which is our conservative values, for far too long. And I'm very critical about this, and I'll say it. I think the Republican Party has done a very poor job post George W. Bush as governor of the state of Texas in maintaining the conservative Latino base in the state of Texas. As you may recall, George, when George W. Bush ran for governor, we got 49% of the Latino vote in the state of Texas voting for a conservative candidate for governor. When I ran for mayor of the city of Houston in 2001, in spite of the fact that the local newspaper kept reminding everybody that I was a Republican in a nonpartisan race, we got 75% of the Latino vote in Houston. But ever since then, our base has dwindled. And so we want to work with RNHA, we want to work with LIBRE, we want to work with Hispanic Republicans of Texas, the Texas Latino Conservatives, because as Senator Phil Gramm used to say, it works best when everybody gets out of the wagon and pulls the wagon in the same direction, right? So we're delighted that you're here. We want to support you guys in your mission, and we want to make sure that everybody viewing understands that there's more than one organization helping Hispanics live the American dream. We all have different perspectives. You know, I made a phone call to a precinct chairman in Houston the other day who is of Hispanic descent, asking for his support in an effort that we're doing here in Houston. And he says, well, you know, I'm not going to do that because I don't like your position on immigration. I said, well, you know, how about the other 95%? You know, how about our position on military? How about our position on the wall? How about our position on, you know, limited government and free economics? And how about our position on pro-life? And how about our position on supporting the family? Oh, he agreed with all that. But on one issue on immigration, you know, he just wasn't going to support us. So the reason I say that is because we all have different little nuances in our organizations, but the overarching goal is to bring Latinos back home into the conservative movement. How do you see that from our perspective?
Well, one thing that the LIBRE Initiative has been doing for the last few years is we say we want to partner with anyone to do good. So when we look at our policy objectives and we want to, for example, see that property tax reform that we thankfully got last legislative session, we're going to partner with those that agree with us. They may not align with us on every issue, as you mentioned, but on that one issue that we know is going to give money back in the pockets of Hispanics, because they're hardworking and they're killing themselves out there to provide for their families. Well, then, you know what? Let's partner together. And that's something that we've done at the state level, nationally. I know when it comes to education, I know we'll discuss that a little bit. Our coalition on that, we have a wide range of groups that are coming together on education because we know that right now in the time of COVID, there's a lot that is going on and we're trying to figure out what is the right answer. And I'm here to say that the right answer is honestly the parent deciding what is best for their child.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that because that is an important issue. In the Houston Chronicle today, I believe an article was published about the disparate impact on the school districts choosing not to conduct the traditional classroom setting and push it over to online. But we have to recognize that a lot of our immigrant community, whether they be documented or undocumented, and I don't want to get into this, you know, illegal versus legal. The fact of the matter is, George, that we all understand that the courts in Texas and I think across the country have ruled that every child, regardless of legal status, deserves an education in this country. In other words, we can't close the schoolyard door to kids that are undocumented. And so we have to recognize that we have to educate these children, but the Hispanic family, because of their economic situation, may not be digitally connected. Many parents don't know how to download and how to operate, how to download apps. My God, they don't even know where to get a laptop and the difference between, you know, a laptop.
They don't even have the technology at home. Forget about knowing how to do it. They don't even have it at home.
Exactly. And so these school districts that are saying, oh, no, you guys do it at home, you know, but by the way, we're going to keep the tax rate at $1.30 per $100 valuation. We still need your billions of dollars. But y'all go take care of educating your children. That's a real problem in the state of Texas. So we've got to make sure that our leaders fund the parents. So let me let you talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned it's about the parent.
Yeah, well, we want every kid to be able to learn anywhere. So this idea that it's only reopening schools and that's the only answer, or there's no other option, that's wrong. We got to think about what the parent or the legal guardian of that child thinks is best and what they're comfortable with. So if 75% of the local school district and the families think it's good to open the schools, then it's good for that 75%. But the other 25%, if they're not comfortable with that, then there should be other options. And if the online is what works for them, then let's talk about those options. So there's multiple ways of learning. And actually, that's something that my wife and I are currently going through with my oldest son, going into pre-K4. And one of the options is to learn online, at least for the first 4 weeks. So we just had the parent-teacher conference through Teams yesterday, and they're going to provide a laptop. The other thing is resources. You mentioned resources. Well, some of that money, since they're not going to be in school, why not have that money follow the child and use that money for resources like laptop and internet, so that the kids have the adequate tools necessary to learn. So come 4 weeks, September 8th or so, after they start school, if they don't get the extension for online, my wife and I have already made the decision that we're going to teach my son from home with other tools that we have, like Khan Academy. It's an app that we were using last night to teach the ABCs to my child. There's many different tools out there where we can learn and take that time, whether it's at night or in the morning, because we also know that parents work. So to say that you need to be on the computer from 8 to 5 is unrealistic, because who's going to take care of the child? Maybe you're someone who is an essential worker, or just working in general. Who's going to be taking care of your child while they're doing that? So if doing your schoolwork at night when you're home makes sense, then that's another option.
Well, George, what the system can do, or what things can change, and the biggest challenge, I think, as you say, is pre-K to 4 or 5th grade, because are the little kids that they need more attention. And some of the parents, not only they work, as you mentioned, but they also, many of them, they don't speak English. Many of them, they don't have the level of education. So how they can do or deal with the online education at home when they don't have those skills?
So what we're seeing is a lot of micro schools or little pod classrooms. And what that is families will come together, and let's just say it's 10 children within a neighborhood, that they find a parent or a teacher who's willing to teach the children during a certain time. Sometimes that teacher may make more money if they're willing to work by doing that than they would be working in the schools. So you've got to be creative, and there's ways out there to help. Especially, I grew up in a home where my parents were working in the fields. They didn't have time to be teaching me how to do long division and multiplication. And on top of that, they probably didn't know. They were worried about other things, like making ends meet, providing for their children, right? That's more important to them, because that's what their responsibilities are. But thankfully, I had my older sister, my brother, that helped me out when I needed that. So it's going to be a team effort. And I know that with us and our child, we've talked to our neighbor who's got a son the same age. And she also said, hey, I'm willing to help out when we need to survive during this COVID time, and trying to figure out what is the best steps.
You know, it's very interesting, George. This presents a real dilemma for the unions. The unions are not wanting to go back to work, right? My sense is that a lot of them are behind this push that, oh, we're afraid of getting COVID and spreading it, when, again, I'm not a scientist and I'm not an expert, but the overwhelming literature with respect to the science is that children are the least affected by COVID and the least likely to spread COVID. And if there are measures taken by the unions in the schoolhouse, that can be mitigated. But so the reason I say this is going to present a real interesting challenge for unions. They still want that big check. They still want the benefits. They still want their pensions, but they don't want to be in the classroom because of the potential of spreading COVID, when we know the kids really don't. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how this plays out. I can understand maybe, okay, the local school district, as the governor says, makes the local decision. But if these school districts and local mayors, as we have here in Houston, are going to say, no, we don't want to open up the classroom for a prolonged period of time, and the next time the property taxes are due, again, the highest property taxes in the state of Texas are, as you know, are to support the massive indebtedness of public education in Texas. How do you see that playing out? I mean, you know, the schoolhouse is shuttered, the buses aren't running, The cafeteria isn't operating, but yet we're still paying $1.30 per $100 valuation. How do you see that playing out?
This is a time when parents need to take action, and the decision to reopen schools or keep them closed is, as you mentioned, it's going to be a decision at the local level. It should be a decision at the local level. I know here in the Valley, we've seen a rapid rise of cases, and it's been tragic. I've had my own family members that have passed away of this illness. And what's interesting though is that the LIBRE Initiative has been fighting for school choice for a few years now. I started in 2015. And the whole thing behind school choice is that the parent knows best, because every child learns differently. Everyone, it's not a one size fits all. So what I've been advocating for all these years is that if you want to send your child to a private school or to a public charter school, as we're doing, that money should follow the child. Instead of sending that money to the public school that your child would have been going to. I like to say, give this example to the community when I'm out there talking to the public. When you go to McDonald's, you're going to pay McDonald's for that meal, right? You're not going to pay Burger King. Why does that work? And when I'm talking to the faith community, I'm talking to a pastor and multiple pastors, and I'm telling them, if I'm going to your church, I'm going to tithe at your church. But I'm not going to tithe that the other church that I'm not going to, I'm not being benefited from. So how come this is the way it is in public schools? So ultimately what we found, or what I found, was that it's unfortunate that it took a pandemic for these questions to start arising, because this is the stuff that the school choice advocates for the last few years have been talking about. We wanted to get ahead of this, not knowing that there was going to be a pandemic, but saying that we want more options. And I've been seeing, to their credit, local Democrat representatives saying that they want to have the ability to choose to teach their children at home. Well, thank you for advocating for school choice, because that is your option, your choice. You get to do what's best for your family. And I want to tell every family here that you decide what is best for your child. So if you think that you want to send them to school and you can find a teacher that wants to teach them, great, that works for you. But if you find someone else like myself, I want to have different options, I'm going to do that.
Let's switch gears a little bit, George. We all know, and we're very aware of the fact that there is a disproportionate effect of COVID on the Hispanic community. Part of it may be lack of education. Part of it may be lack of effective communication. I don't know the reason, but one of the things that's very disturbing to me is there was an article locally that a woman who presented with symptoms went to a local clinic, and I'm assuming it, and I don't recall if the article identified it as a federally qualified health clinic, but nonetheless presented herself with symptoms of COVID. The local newspaper reported that an antibody test was administered. Now, you don't administer an antibody test, in my opinion, when a patient presents themselves with the symptoms of the virus. You want to run a viral test, right, to make sure that they don't have or test positive or negative for the virus. And I'm wondering, and I'm disappointed that, the health commissioner isn't on top of this. Why isn't the health commissioner going to that clinic and inquiring, why are they administering, antibody tests to people that should have been administered the viral test? And I'm wondering, I had a discussion with a buddy of mine that I hope this isn't a money grab. In other words, that, this clinic knows they can charge $200 for an antiviral test, and, 2 or 3 days later, an antibody test, and a few days later, the patient's going to come back for another couple $100 for the viral test. I mean, is there a disconnect here? In other words, do you guys believe that the Latino community is being effectively communicated to with respect to the virus?
Well, I want to start off by saying I'm not a scientist or a doctor either. Thankfully, I get to serve as a public board member on a personal capacity to the Texas Physician Assistant Board appointed by Governor Abbott. But personally, and I can't speak on behalf of the LIBRE Initiative because we haven't really discussed this, but there is going to be, as we see more Hispanics that are being infected with COVID, what that is, obviously, at least I can speak for the Valley. There are surveys and reports by reputable sources that show that the Valley is the #1 and the most diabetic in the country, and overweight and heart disease, things like that. And those things are underlying conditions that we're seeing are playing into this. And I can only speak to what I hear on the radio from my local health authorities, and they're saying that stuff does play a cause. Now, when it comes to the money, my wife and I, we went just to get tested as well, just to prevent. Thank God everything came out okay. But they also did, it was the just the one that you're mentioning, the one to see if they had the antibodies. But we were also not feeling any symptoms either. So is it a money grab? Maybe. I think we've been seeing reports out there of hospitals doing that, but that's something, you know, completely separate than what the LIBRE initiative would be able to, you know, speak.
Yeah. So this is another issue that we have been talking about here because, you know, our political action committee, obviously it gets involved directly in campaigns, but most of the work we do is through our 501c4, which is educational, and we try to bring issues to the fore and educate the Hispanic community. But we've been talking to a lot of health professionals here. As you know, we are one of the largest medical centers in the world, and one of the things that confounds me profoundly is the lack of attention by the state of Texas and our leadership on the issue of what you talked about. These are called comorbidities, right? So the virus attacks people who have comorbidities: diabetes, heart disease, overweight, hypertension. I mean, we all know that. So we've been trying to get the state of Texas to focus on the issues affecting the Hispanic community from a health perspective. And boy, I tell you, it's been a little rough. So we don't only provide political issues.
Yeah,
to
we
discuss.
just
talk
discussed education in all levels, but you know, it got my attention, and everybody's been saying it, and you just mentioned it. It took a pandemic for everybody to wake up, for everybody to open their eyes on many things. And I think, you know, I was reading the mission of LIBRE, and it say that it's improve and empower the Hispanic community to reach their full potential. So when you guys have that kind of a mission, how do you guys, or what do we can tell our Hispanic community that they can reach their full potential, especially now after this pandemic, or during this pandemic, when everything changed and nothing is going to be the same as before?
Well, the LIBRE initiative is a 501c4, and we also have our LIBRE Institute, which is our 501c3, which is purely educational. And we help break down barriers with the Institute to our communities. So example, we have classes of English as a second language. If people want to get better, learn English a little bit better so they can get a better paying job. So we're going to provide those courses. And as we're doing that, we're also educating on a policy issue. So maybe it is healthcare, and we talk about telemedicine. Hey, right now, if you don't feel comfortable going to the doctor, you could do telemedicine, have a conversation with your phone and the doctor's on the other line, and let them know what's going on. I've done that already myself. I really enjoyed it because I didn't have to put my family at risk. And the other reason why is that I have family members that are that have underlying conditions. So anything that I do can affect them, right? So there are different options and things that we do to break down those barriers. And another example is also financial literacy classes. So how do we empower families to thrive? Well, if you got to learn how to manage a budget, right? So we don't want to spend more than what's coming in. Mi mamá siempre me decía que el que gasta más, pues no va a tener nada, right? So I want to be able to keep a budget of what's coming in and what the expenses are, and be able to save a little. So those are basic things that we are providing to the community as an example of how they can start reaching their full potential. We want them to be able to get out of debt, to pay off their home someday, start building wealth, so that they can achieve those dreams, whatever their dreams are.
George, since you know everything, you just mentioned telemedicine and everything via Zoom or via FaceTime. Have you guys continue develop these programs that you guys offer via online? Like, for example, the English as a second language or the debt-free program. You guys continue to do that, or you planning to do that, or how did that work right now?
Yeah, when the whole pandemic first hit us, we took a break trying to figure out what do we do from here. And quickly, our field staff, and credit to them, we have field offices throughout the state and throughout the country, where they found, hey, there's still a need in the community. People still want this. How are we gonna do this? And the way to do that was through Zoom, through Teams, a way that we can still reach out, and people are still learning. Going back to earlier when I said we want every child to learn anywhere, this is one way that even parents are learning anywhere.
These programs are free and it's available to the community where people can, it's across Texas. How people can really find out about these programs, people that are watching us right now?
Yeah, so it is completely free. We do this because we want to break down those barriers. You can reach out to us on our Facebook page at the LIBRE Institute, or if you can't find that, the LIBRE Initiative, LIBRE Initiative Texas, and ask where you can find something near you. And you don't even have to be, it doesn't have to be anything near you, because since it's all technology now, you can be anywhere in the state, anywhere in the country, and still participate in what's going on, in the Valley or in El Paso or Houston, wherever you're at.
One of the important issues facing the state of Texas, obviously, is immigration and immigration reform. A lot of the liberals in this country believe that conservatives are anti-immigration. And I remind people that the young lady sitting here to my right, your left on screen, me, we're immigrants. And I'm assuming you're not an immigrant. You're probably born in California, but you're the child of immigrants. And so, it's absurd for the left to say we're anti-immigrant. We're not. We are immigrants. What we are is for law and order. At least I'm speaking from our perspective at the Texas Latino Conservatives. But we also recognize that, I'm going to editorialize here because I do that a lot on this program.
By opinion.
I remind people that the O in my name does not stand for Orlando. It stands for opinion. So, I've been around the block, George. You're much younger than I am. But I've been in politics in Texas for about a quarter century. And I'm gonna lay it on the line. Back in the 1990s, when I was on the City Council of Houston, a former colleague of mine passed this obscure resolution. It was a resolution, it wasn't an ordinance, that made Houston a sanctuary city. Basically that, we wanted to make sure the police department didn't ask legal status of citizens. I fought that. I didn't believe that the police department ought to be asking people for their papeles, but I also didn't think that we ought to go publicly advertise that we're a sanctuary city, and that's what we became. And at that time, in the 1990s, no conservatives complained. Now, let me go a little bit further back in time. In the 1970s, I served in the United States Air Force in Valverde County, Texas, which is located on the Mexican border. And without doubt, every day I would see dozens of men crossing from the south side of Highway 90 to the north side of Highway 90. Now, we all knew what was going on. There were no Border Patrol checkpoints. There was no border guard. And it was wide open. And, we all knew that. At least the conservatives in Congress knew that. And they did nothing. And so for 40 years, we did nothing. It was until recently that we got serious about enforcing immigration laws. And then back in the 90s, I remember telling a young man by the name of Jason Fuller, who's a dear friend of mine, but was a staff member for Kay Hutchison. I said, if you guys don't get control of the Mexican border, the U.S.-Mexico border, we're going to have serious problems in this country. And, here we are, 2020, and those problems are facing us right now. So a long speech here to say that I get upset sometimes with my conservative friends who blame the immigrant that came here looking for a better life. Yeah, I'm upset about it too. But we as a society for 40 years did nothing about it. We had what I call a wink and nod policy. And so I'm curious to know, we believe that, and we've done a poll, that the families that are here undocumented and have lived here for a long time and have never violated the penal code ought to be able to apply for a legal status. But when they do, there's no pathway to citizenship because we recognize they violated policy. That's our position here at TLC. I'm curious to know what you guys' position is on immigration.
Yeah, so first of all, so my parents did live already in the States, working here when I was years before I was born, but they actually had me in Monterrey, Nuevo León, Mexico. So that's where I was born. And but
So you have dual citizenship.
Have dual citizenship. At 5 days from when I was born, we were already back in California. It's just I was born during the Christmas time after the vacation, so that's where it all happened. But yeah, I do have dual citizenship, but as someone who sees both sides of it, because I was raised in the States, right? This is what I know. The LIBRE initiative, one, there's a rule of law, and we have to follow that law. And for those that, as you mentioned, that came here illegally years ago, have not done anything wrong, we want them to be able to get out of the shadows, to be able to, if there's a fine, to pay that fine, pay those fees, but be able to continue working so they can continue contributing to the economy, to society, to their communities. Now, it's up to Congress to decide if that is going to be a pathway to citizenship or it's just legal status. Whatever that is, Congress has to decide that. But we're going to support that ability for them to be able to stay here legally and provide for their families if they've got no record. And obviously, if something like that were to happen, they would do the background checks. And looking at DACA, for example, you just had my good friend Hilario on a few weeks ago. He's someone that who had to pass a background check. And so just actually about a year and a half ago, February of 2019, we took 50 Dreamers up to the Capitol, Washington, D.C., and we met with members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats. And we were saying, we want a Dreamer deal. These are our children who don't know any other country. They came here at no fault of their own. So we were trying to get both sides to come together. And what we know right now is that for the next year, when it relates to DACA, the courts, no one can do anything as far as removing DACA unless Congress takes action. So we've been saying for years now is that we need a legislative solution, a permanent solution when it comes to in respect to the Dreamers. And at the same time, we know that Democrats don't get to decide alone what immigration reform looks like. And at the same time, Republicans alone don't get to decide what immigration reform looks like. So we need both of them to come together. And yeah, we need border security, whatever that is, if that's more infrastructure, if that's more border patrol agents, if that's technology, whatever that is, Congress needs to decide, but they need to have that discussion. At the same time, we need to allow for more legal immigration. There are tons of jobs, with the exception, pre-COVID era, there were more jobs than there were people to fill them. So we need those workers that can be here, the high-skilled workers. We need to increase visas. But it looks like that may not happen until after, whatever the elections decide, maybe January of next year. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I've been holding my breath for 40 years. I might as well take a breath because I've been waiting on Congress to do something about immigration. It was 1986 when Ronald Reagan signed the Immigration Reform Act. And, a lot of people don't realize that was actually an amnesty program. So in other words, if you came out of the shadows and you went through your background check and you could actually apply for amnesty and apply for citizenship. That was a true pathway to citizenship. People forget that was Republicans that did that. But if you look at the statistics, I'm told by those that watch this, and I think the Pew Research Center has done the research on this, that over 60% of eligible Hispanics did not apply for citizenship. Most of them just wanted a legal status. And so when we proposed a legal status, again, at least here in Texas and in Houston, our immigrant community loves the idea. They absolutely love the idea. They don't want citizenship. They don't want to run for office. They don't want to vote in our elections. They just want to live with their families knowing
In
that,
peace.
yeah,
In peace,
right?
like, you know, like they leave the house and they're not worried about like,
Right.
I'm gonna come back or not.
You know, and we get a lot of these diehard right. I guess I hate to use the word right wing, but ultra conservative people that, you know, believe this is amnesty, you know, well, look, call it what you will. It's not amnesty because, as you say, we probably would require them to pay a fine and pay for the costs associated with application and whatnot. But even if it is a form of amnesty, we do amnesty all the time here in Texas. You know, on traffic citations,
Yeah.
somebody might have 100 tickets, you know, owing the local government, you know, a couple $1,500 or so. We have amnesty weekends. You know, the mayor will get up and say, "Hey, pay your fine. You only have to pay $100." That's amnesty. And so, yeah. But as you say, we need to decide, and we are the Congress. And it's disappointing that more and more we see Congress, members of Congress, more worried about re-election than passing legislation. And unfortunately, we just see them kicking things over to the executive through executive orders or letting the Supreme Court decide.
We have Hilario Yanez that you just mentioned him, and you guys were talking about exactly what he started commenting at the beginning of this without even mentioning him. And he said the person who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend and an ally, not a 20% traitor Ronald Reagan. That's what he said.
All right. On voter registration, you guys get involved in voter registration, George?
No, we do not, unfortunately. So.
All right. Any other issues you want to bring up? We're going to cut it a little short today because we've got some work to do over here. But,
no, he needs to have lunch.
No, I'm not. She always says I want a break for lunch. It's not true. But why don't you sign off and just, you know, remind us what we do. We want to thank you for your time. We want to thank the leadership of LIBRE. I think that what you do in the country is wonderful. And again, we stand ready to work with you wherever we can. But then we'll give you the last few words.
I appreciate it. Thank you, first of all, for having me. But one last thing, if you want to take action, if you want to be a part of that change that we want to see in the state and in this country, I encourage you to join organizations like ours. We're doing the grassroots work. We're going to the communities, doing the door-to-door knocking. We're doing the phone banking, and we're taking people up to Austin when it comes to legislative session, next session, starting in January, so that our lawmakers can hear what our concerns are. So if school choice is something that interests you, if you're passionate about that, I encourage you to contact us. If telemedicine is one of those issues, and maybe it's criminal justice reform when it comes to bail reform or another issue, we want to be a home for you, and we'd love to give you a platform to be able to express yourself. So reach out to us at the LIBRE Initiative on Facebook, LIBRE Initiative on Twitter, wherever you can to get a hold of us. And again, thank you so much for having me today.
Well, George, it was wonderful to meet you. Unfortunately, we had to do it through Zoom, but I hope to meet you in person one day. I did meet your state director in San Antonio, and I think you guys have a collection of very brilliant young people, and I wish you guys the very best. So call on us if we can help you. Andrea, te voy a dar las últimas palabras para que puedas despedirte de nuestra audiencia que habla español.
Bueno, Jorge, definitivamente muchísimas gracias, y lo que tú dices es muy cierto. Debemos tener una voz y debemos alzar nuestra voz y hacernos sentir y opinar y decir lo que queremos, lo que necesitamos, y al mismo tiempo hacerlo todo bajo la ley y bajo las reglas, seguir las reglas, pero nunca olvidarnos de que tenemos derechos y de que debemos hacer sentir nuestra voz. Si no decimos nada, es como que no existimos. Y parte de eso también es, este año es el censo, parte de eso es importante también participar en el censo para hacernos contar como comunidad, no importa si estás legal o no legal en este país, hacernos contar es muy importante, porque de eso depende que lleguen los fondos y las ayudas necesarias para crisis y situaciones como las que estamos viviendo hoy en día con la pandemia. Pues muchísimas gracias a ti y a la organización LIBRE. Todos los que nos están viendo, LIBRE tiene muchísimos programas para nosotros los hispanos, totalmente libre de costo, así como se llama, libre de costo. Así que vayan a la página de internet y vayan a la página también de Facebook. Y hablando de support, talking about support, we also encourage you guys to support the TexasLatinoConservatives.com. Go to TexasLatinoConservatives.com, become a member. You're going to get one of these t-shirts. That's why I'm wearing that t-shirt today. You're going to get one of these t-shirts, and you're going to get one of these cards. So very important, because with your support, we can do more things. We can keep educating our community. We can give to our community and bring those programs, not only the Facebook or TLC Live these days, but bring people like Jorge, bring people like, experts in different topics that it matters to our community.
And we're helping young Hispanic conservatives across the state of Texas run for office. We've endorsed a handful of candidates. We also send them a contribution check, and we help them with their infrastructure. And so we're proud to be supporting members of the school board, like in Pearland, Texas. We're supporting a candidate for Texas House of Representatives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're supporting candidates for the Texas House out in West Texas. And we're supporting city council members running across the state of Texas. So
and also our program, Leadership Latino.
Yeah, we have Leadership Latino, where if you want to get involved in politics and you want to participate at the grassroots level, you want to make a difference in your neighborhood or in your community, or you want to be a candidate for office, go to our webpage, TexasLatinoConservatives.com, and you'll see Leadership Latino. Sign up for our upcoming class, which is September 26th in Houston, Texas. So having said all that, we hope you guys will join us next week. George, good luck to you guys in the Valley. I know you're getting a double whammy, right? The tropical storm, and then now and COVID. So we wish you guys the very best.
Sí,
we'll see you guys next week.
Muchísimas gracias, Jorge. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Gracias a todos.